What if the universe isn't made of matter at all? What if everything you see, stars, planets, atoms, even your own thoughts, is built not from physical stuff, but from information? This idea sounds like science fiction. But surprisingly, it comes directly from modern physics. In fact, some of the greatest physicists of the last century believed that information, not matter, may be the most fundamental building block of reality. At first glance, reality feels physical. You touch things, you see objects, you feel gravity. Everything appears solid and material. But when physicists began looking deeper, far beyond what our senses can detect, that solid picture started to break apart. At the smallest scales, matter behaves less like stuff and more like data. Quantum physics shows us that particles don't carry definite properties on their own. Their characteristics, such as position, energy, and even existence, are defined only through interactions. In other words, particles don't behave like tiny objects with permanent attributes. They behave more like packets of information that only gain meaning when measured. This led physicists to a radical question. Is reality made of things, or is it made of information? One of the first people to seriously propose this idea was physicist John Archibald Wheeler. He famously summarized his view with a short phrase, "it from bit." By this, he meant that every physical thing, it, ultimately comes from binary information, bit. According to Wheeler, the universe is not a machine made of matter, it is a system that processes information. In this view, particles are not objects in the traditional sense. They are answers to yes or no questions. Reality emerges from interactions where information is exchanged. This idea becomes even more powerful when we look at quantum measurements. When physicists measure a quantum system, they don't just reveal a hidden property, they actively define it. Before measurement, the system exists only as a range of possible outcomes. Measurement selects one outcome and turns information into reality. This suggests something extraordinary. Physical reality may not exist independently of information. Matter may be secondary. Information may be primary. Another clue comes from black holes, some of the strangest objects in the universe. For decades, physicists believed that anything falling into a black hole was lost forever. But this created a major problem. Quantum physics says information can never be destroyed, yet black holes seemed to erase it completely. This contradiction became known as the black hole information paradox. After years of debate, physicists came to a shocking conclusion. Black holes do not destroy information. Instead, information is somehow stored on their surface. This led to the holographic principle, the idea that all the information inside a volume of space can be described by data on its boundary. In simple terms, this means our three-dimensional universe may behave like a hologram. Everything inside space could be encoded as information on a lower dimensional surface. This isn't metaphorical. The math works, and it suggests that space itself may not be fundamental. It may emerge from information. If space is emergent, then distance is not fundamental either. Separation becomes a relationship between data, not a physical gap. This aligns with quantum entanglement, where particles remain connected regardless of distance, as if space itself doesn't fully apply to them. The universe starts to look less like a place and more like a network. Another piece of the puzzle comes from quantum computing. Unlike classical computers, which process information step by step, quantum computers operate using quantum states that can encode enormous amounts of information simultaneously. This shows that nature itself processes information in ways far beyond classical logic. Reality behaves like a computational system, operating on probabilities and correlations rather than fixed values. Some physicists believe the laws of physics are not laws of matter, but laws of information processing. This leads to a provocative question. If the universe processes information, does it compute reality? This does not necessarily mean we live in a simulation. It means that reality itself may function like a computational process, not running on a computer, but being one. Time, in this framework, may not be fundamental either. Time could emerge from changes in information. When information updates, we experience the flow of time. Without change, time has no meaning. This helps explain why time behaves strangely at the quantum level and near extreme conditions like black holes. In an information-based universe, the most basic unit of reality is not a particle, it's a relationship. What exists is not things, but correlations between information states. This completely changes how we think about existence. Objects don't exist independently. They exist because information about them exists and is exchanged. Reality is not built from matter upward, it's built from information outward. This also reshapes the role of the observer. An observer is not just someone who looks. An observer is a system that extracts information. Observation is information exchange. Reality becomes defined through interactions, not through passive existence. Some physicists go even further and suggest that the universe is self-observing. It constantly measures and updates itself through interactions. In this sense, observation is built into reality itself. This removes the need for consciousness to collapse reality, while still placing information at the center of existence. But where does information come from? That question remains open. Some theories suggest information is the most basic layer, more fundamental than space, time, or energy. Others suggest information arises from deeper mathematical structures we don't yet understand. What's clear is that matter no longer holds the throne it once did. Modern physics increasingly points toward a universe where information is king. This also affects how we think about ourselves. If reality is information, then so are we. Your body is a highly organized pattern of data. Your thoughts are information processes. Your identity is not a static object, it is a dynamic pattern. This doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it more remarkable. You are not made of dead matter drifting through space. You are a complex, evolving information structure inside a universe that computes itself into existence. Every interaction you have is an exchange of information. Every moment is a data update. Reality is not a thing, it's an ongoing process. Physics has not reached a final answer, but the direction is clear. The deeper we look, the less solid reality becomes. Matter dissolves into fields. Fields dissolve into probabilities. Probabilities dissolve into information. The universe begins to look less like a machine made of parts, and more like a story written in code. Not code running on a computer, but code that is reality. And if that's true, then the most fundamental question is no longer, what is the universe made of? The real question becomes, what information creates reality, and why does it exist at all?